Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, coming at you with more old world goodness. In last week's video, or in one of the videos from last week, where I did the comparison of different resins, and I was kind of bigging up Games Workshop's new resin that they've been using for all their specialist game stuff. I used the Damsel as an example, and I did paint her up in that video, but I didn't go through the painting process, and I very much skipped a whole bunch of steps. I did ask in that video if you guys wanted to see a full formatted video showing you step by step how to do the Damsel, and a lot of you guys did indeed comment and ask to give that, so that's what I'm going to do in today's video. I'm going to show you from start to finish how I painted up my beautiful new Damsel on foot. Before I get into the video, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons. You guys really do help keep the channel going. Without you guys, I could not continue to grow and bring you as many videos as humanly possible. If you're interested in getting involved with Patreon yourself, there are links in the description below. You get access to a private Discord server where you hang out with me on a daily basis talking about your hobby, participate in painting competitions and all sorts of other events on there, and you get access to an extra video every single week just for you guys. So if more content is something that you're hungry for, then check that out. Okay, without further ado, let's get stuck in and painting that damsel. And this is her, and as you can see, she is an absolutely stunning sculpt. Like, flawless. I definitely think that I will at some stage pick up a second one of this miniature and use all the alternative pieces to make a second damsel on foot. There's a different head and a different hand option for both hands. You get a staff and a nice pointing hand, and then obviously you get the more senior damsel, probably the one that's supposed to be used for the level 4. And I just would really like to paint up another one of these miniatures with a totally different color palette, I think. The model was sprayed black and then given a dusting of grey cere, as I traditionally do when getting miniatures ready for painting. And I actually decided that the dress color as it stands right now was kind of a perfect base coat, that I would only start layering it up after I shaded it. So the first thing I did was start to tackle all the other colors on the miniature and start to block those in. So I grabbed Wildwood first and got the belt going around her waist, which does then go around down the front as well. Perhaps her boots are done in brown as well. You can do them in brown or black, whatever you want. They are tucked underneath her robes, standing on top of that beautiful flower. Some people had commented that the base for this miniature is quite silly. The fact that she is standing on top of a flower, which I know seems a little bit bizarre, but you do have to remember in the extended lore for Bretonnians, the Lady of the Lake is actually a wood elf, and the magic that these ladies do wield is in fact basically wood elf magic, so it's all about nature and life and stuff like that. So it does make sense, it does tie into them really well, and that's why they have that kind of green tinge to the entire miniature, which I am going to do in the painting process a little bit later on. But if you look at even the one on the picture on the website, you'll notice there's a kind of a green tinge to everything. And I think that harkens back to that kind of a green aspect. A Kaolian green I used for the cape. And it's only if you go to the website and look at the 360, you do realize that these damsels have these beautiful kind of turquoisey blue capes on them, which they didn't really show up in any of the other promotional videos or images of it. When I was assembling this miniature and I started the painting process, I always go to the website and I always go to the 360 versions, and by that I mean there's a picture on the website for every miniature, and you can basically grab it with the mouse and drag it around, and you can see the backside and everything of the model. So I did that with this and was surprised to see this big, beautiful bluey green cape. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm definitely painting that in. Sorry, that particular frame there was a little bit out of focus. It wanted to focus on my hands more than the blue cape, and I do apologize for that. Retributor Armor Gold was then brought in to paint up all the details. So obviously that belt going around her waist does actually have quite a lot of gold detail on it. So you want to make sure and take your time and get all those details done. And then obviously the chalice, the hilt of the sword. She's got a tiara style thing on. I don't know what a thing is called that holds a veil on. I think it's a tiara. So a tiara style thing on her head. And then some jewelry for the clasp holding her cape. She's got some kind of jewelry bands going around kind of where her biceps are. And this is really just to add the kind of exquisiteness to this miniature. She is definitely someone that is looked up to and revered by Bretonnian folklore. She's obviously gotten quite a lot of gifts. And she is bedecked out in all manner of jewelry. There's also some gold filigree and designs built onto the back of her cape. Those are other details that we don't want to miss out on. Guilliman flesh was used as, of course, the base coat for her face and hands. Other small details on this miniature, but so finely detailed that you do want to make sure you get them contrasted nicely. And we're doing the layering stage later on. That's one of those particular parts of the model that I'm going to spend a bit more time on. I want to make sure that the highlighting is really, really, really sharp. It's kind of like certain miniatures you want to put more time into their faces, and this model is definitely one of them. Some dark silver paint used for the blade and the inside of the chalice. That's pretty much the only two places that there is any silver on this particular model. We will use it to highlight later on, but as a base coat color, that will do. I used some basilicanum grey for the rocks on the base. Another quick and easy step. I don't know whether you guys are too keen on learning how I painted the flower and stuff on the base. Maybe you'll do it a different way, different style of flower, different color of flower. That's up to you. But for me, basilicanum grey for the rocks. I think I used Corandrus, no, striking scorpion green for the actual flowers, or at least the stems of it. Mantis warrior green for the stems of the flowers. This once again is such an easy step because we did that contrast layer, the grey sear. It takes the contrast so well, and you get this beautiful base coats on models so easy. And obviously things like the cape there looks kind of splodgy and doesn't look great. That's okay, it's a big flat area. I knew I was going to be spending a lot of time layering it up, so I didn't need to make it perfect. Now you'll notice that I have some Volupus pink to make it kind of like a pink flower. But you notice the front of the miniature is very much still just the grey sear, and that's what I mean. I'm going to leave that as the base coat because we're going to move across now and shade the entire miniature. And this will do wonders for all of those areas that we have not yet touched with a base coat. Like I said, counting the spray we did as the base coat for the inner part of the cape and the dress, which may seem crazy, but I've done this more than once and it does leave a really nice effect. So Colia green shade is going to be the shade that I used for the entire miniature. Once again, you may think that I'm crazy, but just trust the process. Don't get freaked out. These models are, like I said, basically channeling wood elf magic. So they have a tint of green to them usually. Colia green shade is going to do a perfect job of giving you that tint. We're going to be layering up all the other colors anyway, so it's only really going to be tell in the recesses and dark shady parts of the model, which is really nice. And look at the stunning job that it is doing to her dress. It's folding into all those nice grooves and just giving it really, look how all the detail is now jumping off of the miniature. I couldn't be happier with how that worked out. So obviously give this a lot of time to dry. I put some texture paste on the base while the shade was drying. Let those two parts dry together. And when the model was dry, this is the result. Like I said, I think the dress is in a perfect place now to start the layering process. And for that, we're going to go up to Celestial Grey. Now I know in the initial pictures, it's basically like a pure white. I never paint with pure white. I find it an absolute nightmare. But Celestial Grey and Ulthuan Grey are great colors to use for highlighting up rich, bright greys that look almost white. And as you can see, I'm just going to kind of follow the natural lines of her dress on her body, going with the highest points are going to get highlighted. Anywhere that there's a crease or a fold, the higher up points are going to get the highlight. And all the deep parts, all the shadow parts are going to stay nice and dark and have that Colia green shade in it. Let's see how nice her upper torso is already looking. That's from a single layer over nothing but a spray and a shade. So like I'm telling you could watch a million videos on other painters doing up this miniature, and I bet a bunch of them will make it way more complicated than it needs to be, going through all these glazes and all these mixes and all these, and that's fantastic if that's the style of painting that you want to go for. But if you're like me, you're trying to get a lot of armies painted or just models painted fast on your shelf looking good. Like her white dress was painted by the underspray of grey sear, Colia green shade, and then Celestial Grey highlight. That's it. Not even 3 paints. A spray, a shade, and 1 paint was used to get the result. As you can see, flowing down with the same thing across her veil, shawl, thing. As you can see, her dress and her inner cape are actually 2 different colors. It's kind of like a bright white and then like a creamy bone color for the inside of the cape. So I'm going to follow through and do that as well, just so it's not all kind of the same color. Definitely split her up. Look how good the dress looks with that 1 coat. I was really pleased with the result of that. Originally, I was going to try and find an Ulthuan Grey and push it up even further, but I decided I really liked the result as it stood, so I left it. From here, I believe we grabbed a Morghast bone color and highlighted the inside of the cape. Now, these kind of tan bone colors are quite weak, and this area is quite big, and a lot of it is kind of flat. There isn't a lot of creases to leave shadow in. So you're probably going to want to take your time and go over this with kind of at least 2 thin coats to get the kind of result you want. And even if there isn't a lot of crazy detail, like I said, not a lot of shading or depth, even if the color does look a little bit flat at the end of applying this, the detail on the rest of the front of the miniature is going to pull your attention away from that anyway, so it won't really matter all that much. As goes the cape, I grabbed the Cursed Blue color from the Duncan Rhodes paints. There is conversion charts. You can continue to use Citadel paints if you want. So you can check out the Duncan Rhodes 2 Citadel paint conversion chart they have on the website and find whatever blue this is. I'm not 100% sure myself. I'm just a big fan of the 2 thin coats range. And as you can see, I just start to highlight the cloak. Once again, like I said, with all other details in this miniature, it's the higher folded parts which get the highlight, and all the bits in nice recesses. It's where all the shadow is going to stay. If you stick with this premise, you practice this idea, you'll soon be layering fabric in a really simple, effective way and getting really nice results. Sometimes it's not a strong enough paint. It's not going to give you the kind of coverage you want. Stop trying to go over and again right there in the spot. Just do one kind of blotchy coat first, and then you go in with a second thin coat. It's going to give you a much stronger, brighter result. From here, we're going to move over to Ironbreaker, and we're going to use this paint to highlight all the metallics. That is, the silver and the gold parts are going to get highlighted with this. With the silver blade, it's a standard layer job. With the gold parts, it's just that kind of touch, scratchy highlight. You can see how quickly I move around the gold parts, just adding a few touches of silver, where I think the light will be glinting off it. We're nearing the end zone now. There's only a couple more details left to do, like her face. And I've got kind of a special plan for the inside of that chalice as well. Obviously, she's presenting a chalice with some sort of beverage to make you a better, stronger, faster fighter. Something from the lady, perhaps. So obviously, you can't have this just be an empty cup. So I'm going to do something a little bit cool with that in a minute. Catachan flesh was used to highlight the brown leather belt around her waist, being careful not to hit any of the fully highlighted gold parts, as those bits are considered done right now. So you can see I'm going in with a fine pointed brush and being really careful not to hit any parts that I'm not supposed to hit. I used some brown on her hair protruding as well, so using the Catachan flesh I did highlight she's got a little bit of a bun showing through the veil, so that was highlighted with that brown as well. And from here, we just used dwarf flesh and elf flesh painting to highlight the face and hands, of course. Once again, we're just being very careful. Like I said earlier in the video, you want to take your time with this. Make sure you get a nice, clean result across the face. It is one of the focal points of this miniature, of most miniatures in fairness. But a lot of her is quite plain, and quite rightly so. So things like her face are going to stand out a mile. And I find that if I take my time, give those steps, the 10-15 minutes they deserve, you would be surprised at how nice the miniature will look at the end of the whole process. It won't usually take 10 or 15 minutes either, but just don't rush it, basically. As you can see me going the bridge of the nose and top of the chin, tops of the cheeks. I do go in and paint the eyes, and I did record the footage of doing that, but it's just so hard to capture that on film. But I did just paint them with pure Pro Acryl white, and then I just did a little slit of black in the middle. War Boss Green was then brought in for layering up the little plant on her base. Once again, a very quick and easy step to highlight those. Normally, I wouldn't show these kind of steps to you, as I like to think that everybody has their own idea of how to base their miniature. There's no point in me showing you one way if you're going to do it a different way. But seeing as how this is a design and model part of her, I decided I'll go through the motion and show you how I did it. It also adds a really nice extra kind of spot of color to her. The bright green and bright pink flowers really does make her stand out from the rest of the on-foot miniatures. I'm a big fan of tactical rocks, as you guys may have noticed with some of the other videos I do. I like characters to be standing tall when you look across a unit, you should see the characters kind of stand out from a mile away. And I definitely think this flower is doing that for her, and I couldn't be happier. Pink art was then brought in, of course, for the flower. And just like the green, just a small highlight on the tips of the petals, leaving the bits closer to the core nice and dark. Like I said, other people would do, 3 stages of highlight and it would go right up to nearly white on the tip. No, just a little bit of this. So, a little bit of Green Stuff World UV clear resin. And all I did was add a little bit of blue glaze to the mix. It did not mix particularly well. The resin and the glaze don't mix together very much. They kind of like fighting against each other, but I took my time. I gave it a good old stir until I got a result I was semi-happy with. Using a little bit of an offcut of a Q-tip, cut into a sharp point. I like using disposable tools, is why I didn't use a palette. I just used a bit of torn off paper so that when I'm done, I can just cure the rest and throw it all out so it's safe, instead of any of this old resin being stuck on tools or brushes or anything like that. As you can see, I poured it into her chalice, and then I used the UV torch to cure it, and it goes rock solid in only a couple of seconds, giving you a really nice idea of her holding this like pristine, beautiful, clear, healing water in her chalice. Kind of makes me think of the water from The Water Boy, but whatever. And with that, we have our finished damsel on foot, looking pretty slick. I'm really happy with the result. Cannot wait to get my hands on the rest of the new resin miniatures whenever they come back in stock on the website and I get a chance to buy them. I will buy them in a heartbeat. And here is a couple of still images of her. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know we already showed her off in a previous video, kind of going between the 2 different types of resins. But you guys did en masse ask for this full video to show you how to do it, so you could follow along with your own damsel. So I hope this answered any and all questions you have on painting damsels, and I hope you enjoyed it. Okay guys, and there we have it, a damsel on foot, painted up and ready to be played with. Now obviously I don't really have a list that would accommodate a damsel on foot right now. My Bretonnian army is very, very mounted heavy, but I am slowly but surely working my way through different infantry blocks to hopefully bring an entire infantry army for Bretonnians to the battlefield. If you're wondering why in God's name would you do an entire on-foot Bretonnian army, I plan on doing a siege force. So these guys are going to have battering rams and siege towers and stuff like that. So it's the idea of them breaking into other border princes' fortresses and castles and trying to fight them from the inside out and claim control of them, which I think will be a very cool thing to bring to a battle report sometime in the near future. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you give the video a like. Ask me any question you want in the comments below. I will get back to each and every one of you guys. In the 2 years that I've been doing this channel, I have yet to miss a single comment. And make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with all future releases. Thank you guys so much for sticking around at the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.